Do we have the results of the survey?
Actually, we gotta give the survey out.
Okay,
right?
let's do that.
Let's see. Let's relaunch a poll here. Does everybody see? Well, everybody but the co-host see that. %, participation. That's getting 81. I think that's just about everybody. We can go ahead and end that. And share the results. You guys can see that?
Hang on.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. Could you show me? Could you show it again?
Oh, it's still there. It's might be on a separate window or.
Hang on.
Yeah, you have to open the polls window.
Oh, he has to do something separate, special.
Window?
Well, I can tell you anyway. It's 11%. 1 out of 9 actively use JSONQuery. Lexi's here. Oh, we should give her the poll. Let's see. 5 out of 9 who responded have played around with it a little. 1 said I have read about it, and 2 have said none of the above.
Great.
And what's Alexi? She played with JSONQuery at all? He came in right after the poll. See, what did I tell you?
Sorry, my bad.
5 people show up after the poll.
There we go. Fashionably
Yes, a
late.
little. Yes, a little.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dive in, and so I'm going to share my screen, and everybody see my screen? Yes.
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 Got out of my way a little. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Kevin Frank, and here's a little bit of information about me. Been doing FileMaker for a very long time. I'm technical lead on Codance Genesis transactions. I have a blog, FileMaker Hacks. It's got about 250 articles, several of which have been written by Beverly. Basically, if you want to find things that are already on my blog about JSONQuery, you can just go in and search JSONQuery on FileMakerHacks.com. So what is JSONQuery? A custom function which operates on JSON. It's authored by Steve Semterera, whom some of you may have noticed is in the audience with us today. And I just stole a couple pics off of the Beeswax website. There's Steve, and there's Steve again. So I need to move one of these little widgets. Hang on. Okay. And anyway, it's a custom function that operates on JSON. And typically you point it at an array of objects, which would look like that. And I might point out that this is a really standard model that we have, where we have each object represents a record, and you could think of the array as being a found set or a table. But you could also point it at an array of arrays, right? So that would work too. And it will return child elements matching your query parameters. Don't worry, we're not going to have too many slides. So as an example, if you've got a 2-dimensional array that looks like this, you can easily get the row, right? Just using JSON get element, right? But FileMaker doesn't give us a way to get the column. But JQ to the rescue, and we'll see that in a moment. So some basic things that it does. It allows you to query, right? So you look into JSON and you bring back things that match your query parameters. It allows you to aggregate. And it has, these are not all of the aggregation operators here, but those are some of them. And these are just, as I say, basic things. Allows you to transform JSON. There was a version 1 that was released 2.5 years ago. And version 2 is upcoming, has a bunch of new features and also some improvements on existing. And we'll be looking at both today. So I have a few goals for today's session. Just want to convey some of the depth and breadth of what you can do with it. I want this to be fast-paced, so no long-winded code explanations. So focus on the what, not the how. It's an overview, not in depth. I said this, but we have such a small group. I'm going to actually change my mind about that and be open to interruptions. So let's try that, see how it goes.
Good. I have a question right now.
Please do.
Where do we get where do we get JSON query?
That's a very good question. Okay, and I'll show you in just a sec. Okay, here's my final slide. And pizza cutter is a metaphor we sometimes use with JSON query, and we'll talk about why in just a moment. Okay, so where can you get JSON query? So if you go to FileMaker hacks and you search on JSON query, several pages will come up, and but this is the most recent. And that's because the reason I'm showing this one is it has the most recent publicly available version of JSON query. So we presented this at FM Disk back in Jan, so 2.5 years ago. And some other things, there's a video of that presentation, which this should have very little duplication against that video. So that one's worth watching also. Steve and I did 2 quite in-depth interviews. And those interviews are here on FileMaker Hacks. Here's the first one. And so it's in the way, and there's the second one. And everything's linked from this page. So I would say just find the JSON query at FM Disk and take it from there. Have a couple other things here, but those links are there. So if you're interested, that's what that is. So I'm going to just jump in and give a few simple demos, and then I'm going to move into the demo that Steve has generously provided to go along with the custom function, which presents things in a structured and very informative way. But as Eric said before we started recording, why should anyone care? Give me a reason to care. And I guess what I would say is, if you work with JSON, this can transform your life. And I work with JSON every week, quite often on it many times a day. Sometimes that's all I do. So this has been a godsend for me. And so I'm just going to bop through and give a few examples, not all these 47 I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to do a few of them right now, just to give some sense of some of the things you can do. So over here from restcountries.com, here's an array of objects where each object represents a country. And so, I guess all the officially recognized countries in the world are here. And let's say, as you'll notice, one of the keys is name. So let's say I just said, hey, what are all the names? And this might be a good time to mention that what you do with JSON query, you could do by writing a while loop, but it would take a lot of time. And in some cases, JSON query is more performant than while. So I'm going to click refresh here, which is going to execute this query here against this JSON here. So that's something we could do, is just very easily reach in and pull out a value that matches our query. I'll talk later about what these 6 arguments mean, so I'm not going to talk at all about that now. Now, you may have noticed it returns, by default, it returns things as an array. But if you wanted a list, note what's going on there. You could instead put list on it, in which case you'd get a list. Now, one place where I really started using it is when I started using the execute FileMaker data API script step, because then that made it very easy to get a hold of JSON and work with it. So, so as an example, though, remember what we said before, the real sweet spot for JSON query is to work on an array of objects. And that's really starts here. What we get back from the data API is also all of this and some other stuff at the bottom. So I'll just point out what we want, and notice this isn't even a JSON query call. This is just, let's go in and just grab the part we care about, right? So now I've just got the array that's hanging off of this key, and that's what I'm showing over here. So, but if we're going to use JSON query, sometimes we're going to reach in and pull a subset out of our source JSON. So if we go over here to step 2, right, now this is what we saw a moment ago. so I've just declared that as a let variable called array. So now I'm going to say, hey, JSON query, reach into that array. And what I've got here is a bunch of data from a winery that sells directly to their customers. And what I want to do is I want to find the order IDs for people that have ordered Cabernet. I'd like to bring back an array of these IDs for people that have ordered Cabernet, and which is saying if the word Cabernet exists here in this product description. So you can sort of see it, right? I'm saying reach in there. Here's the address of what I'm looking at. This is the target that I'm looking at. Does it contain Cabernet? If so, return to me the ID. So I click that, boom, got the IDs. And if we went down and looked, we would see, sure enough, that those are the orders that have Cabernet. So now this was what I showed in the slide. I talked about how I wish I was looking for a tool where I could look down a column in an array. I think of this as kind of like a spreadsheet, right? So FileMaker gives us a tool to look at the row, but it doesn't give us a tool to look at the column, but JSONQuery does. So in this case, all I'm saying is look at everything and return to me the column, which is 4, which of course is the 5th column since we start with 0, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. So it'll be 15, 25, 35, right? That's what I'd like back. So I click refresh, and sure enough, it does it, right? You can see that what we've returned in an array is the values from this column. And and I might point out, we don't have to put the brackets around the address. This is true a lot in regular FileMaker functions too. I see people doing that quite often with arrays when all they need to do is specify the number. It works just the same. And maybe instead of an array, we want a list. So once again, I've used the list function there. And now I brought it back as a list, which makes it easier to see that you've actually got the values from the column. This was a kind of interesting one. I won't even get into why I did this, but this actually came from a real world project, and I just obfuscated the URLs. And we have a situation where I just want to get some statistics on these things here. So if I click refresh, notice I'm saying count them, give me the minimum value, give me the average, give me the sum. And the reason I'm saying 1 here is because I want array position 1 is what I'm querying here. So I click refresh, okay, and there I just easily produced some simple stats. And quite often with JSONQuery, you'll find that you're using it more than once to get the problem solved, and that starts to bring us into the pizza cutter metaphor that I mentioned a moment ago, which is a pizza cutter is a great tool, and I got this from Steve actually, it was his metaphor, but you're probably going to use, or quite often you use it more than once, right? It's a great tool because you can use it more than once. So let's move on. And so maybe we don't want all. Notice I said match all here. Maybe I want to do my aggregation on just, in this case, I'm looking for things that have the letter U. I don't care if it's upper or lowercase. I just want the letter U. And I want those same stats if they've got the letter U. So that's what I've done. And I went ahead and brought them back just so we can see, right? That if you look hard, you'll see there's a U in every one of these, right? And I've done the stats on those. And maybe I actually want case sensitive. That's the next example. And maybe I only want lowercase u. So now I'm going to click refresh, and it's bringing back things. Now they may also contain an uppercase U, like that one contains both. But at a minimum, they have to have, and so does that one. But at a minimum, they have to have a lowercase u. So you can start to see the power here if what you're doing is analyzing complex JSON. You can really reach in and find those needles in a haystack using JSONQuery. And what did I do here different? I decided to, it's exactly the same, but instead of an array of entries, I just wanted a list, right? And I just wanted a list of the URLs. So I'm going to, rather than the whole thing, I just want the URLs. So I'm going to put list 0, right? Because I want array position, 0. So click refresh. There they are. And just to complete the example, if I instead wanted the list of just the values, I would simply change that 0 to a 1, which I'm doing now in the next example. So everything else was the same. I just changed what was going on down here. So a moment ago, we had an array coming back. Then we got the list of URLs, and then we got the list of values. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Here, this is a great pizza cutter example. This has two parts to it. Part one is simply what I'd like to do. My task is I'm saying, bring me back the URLs that have the smallest value, but I don't know what the smallest value is. So I'm going to have to figure out the smallest value before I can tell JSONQuery which set of URLs to bring me back. So what we do here first is we just say, hey, go show me the minimum value. So I'm going to click refresh here. It says 12, and sure enough, we can see one right there. And that's the lowest value that occurs anywhere. It may occur more than once, but there's at least one 12 in here, and there are no values lower than 12. So now we can go to part two, right? And we can put that same argument up here in the let, right? And then now that I think about it, I should have an X here because that's what I'm querying, right? No, look at all, sorry. Where the value equals X, I did do it correctly. Okay, so now I'm going to say, hey, look in here and look at array position 1 and find me entries that equal the value that I figured out with X. So this is 2 passes of the pizza slicer here, right? And then I'm saying, return as a number, and what I want you to return are the items at position 0. So bring me back the URLs that match the 12. And sure enough, I've got them there, one of which you can easily see. It's right there. This is interesting. This is a brilliant example that Steve cooked up. And I just love it for just the idea of some of the depth of what you could do. Not in the first example, but we'll see it in the second example. So what we have, I sort of spelled it out here. We have an array, and each object represents a festival. So a lot is going on at a festival. Festivals, so we've got 3 records in here. Festivals have stages. Each stage has sets. Each set has bands, and each band has musicians, right? So our first task is really easy, and it's going to look similar to an example we've already seen. We'll just pull back the festival name, right? So now these are the names of the 3 festivals. You can see the first one right there, right? But what's fun is over here, we want to ask a very different question now. We want to reach in here and we want to bring back all the bands that have a trumpet, right? And I'll just point out, right, within the musician's key, we've got a little object here of the name of the musician and what their instrument is. So I want to bring back bands that have trumpet. I'm going to click refresh, and thought about it for about a quarter second or half second, and then it brought them back. Maybe I'm actually really into the triangle. So do that. And we've got a couple bands that have triangle. All right. So, and again, it's not so much the particulars here as just the concept of how surgically you can reach in and ask for things and then bring back what you want. Now, this was an interesting one. This was a very real world challenge. I was working with some JSON, and it was coming in a little messy. Typically, the dates were correctly formatted. It was fine with me if they were in US style dates, month and then day. That was all fine. But sometimes there was some garbage in the date. And because, of course, from a JSON perspective, date is just a string, right? There isn't some special date type. So sometimes I was getting spaces and garbage in my dates. So what I did was I asked JSONQuery to go look at the date of inside the departures, and if it contained a space, show me what was there. Okay. And that's the kind of stuff that was coming back. So then once I had that, though, it's sort of like, okay, well, that's all well and good, but it would be really nice if I knew where those were so I could fix them. So now we have the same query, but we've added the path operator. It's the exact same query, but we've added the path operator. So now what comes back is the address of those problematic. So now I can roll through it with a while loop or a script or something and go fix them. almost done with examples, and then we're going to jump into Steve's demo file. Just got a few more here. This is another one that's real world. So I'm working with the web scraper, and he's bringing me back data. And there are a variety of ways that it might look good superficially, but there might be hidden problems. And so what I wanted to do, once I'd identified the kind of problems I was seeing, although sometimes he will creatively invent new ones that I haven't ever seen before, but at least I wanted to test and find out if everything looked good. And I purposely put clean here because in this example, there are no problems. But these are the questions I'm asking. So I'm just saying, hey, look at what's there. And then here are the kinds of things I'm looking for, right? Is the departures, are the departures empty? Do the departures not even have a key? That's what that means. The path doesn't even exist, right? By the way, that omits a new feature for those of you who've been using JSONQuery for a while, et cetera, et cetera. So I am asking a series of questions, and when I run it, it brings me back this simple little report, and empty array is good. That means nothing matched that test. The way it would look now, I'm just gonna move on, same exact query, nothing's changed here, but the data's a little messier here, right? So I'm gonna click refresh, and now what it's doing is telling me where there are problems. And I'll just point out, we've got 12 for a tour, the tour URL. What that means, no key, means the tour URL key isn't even there. The key is missing. And so, well, what are we going to do with that information? So I've drawn your attention to the fact that at the address 12, that's missing. And we'll come over here. Now, of course, since we know the 12, we could just use JSON element, JSON get element, bring it back and see what's going on there, right? Scroll down. Yep, sure enough, it's missing, right? But we don't really need to do that. And the reason we don't need to do that is we can just use JSONQuery and ask the question, right? So that's the question that returned the 12. So I can bring back that data without having to figure out the 12 first. I can just click refresh, and now it's brought me back the same item at position 12. However, I will point out, it's possible that more than one item would have that key missing, so it's going to return it in an array because there might be more than one object coming back. And, yeah, so I'm at the point now, if I have time, I'll show more examples later, but I want to stop showing my stuff and actually get into the Steve's JSONQuery demo file. So hang on one sec while I just check my notes. Okay, yeah, we are doing well there. So if I come over here to the, no, that's me. Let's try that one more time. And go to, okay. And so I guess I just want to point out, this is under construction, and Steve shared it with me so I can share it with you, except we're just going to show it for now. When V2 is ready, then this will actually be available for you to download, and we'll send out a notice, or you'll see it on FileMaker Hacks. Also, you're welcome to email me, kfrank@kevinfrank.com, if you want to be notified, and I will make sure you get a message. So, so we have this demo file. It's got an about screen, and this is very much under construction. It's got. I'm going to skip new in this version because that screen's not done yet. Examples, and what we have here. Actually, I'm going to go to the reference sheet first. So there's a lot of information here about what you can do with JSONQuery. So this is a very useful place to come. However, there are a lot of examples in here, and Steve, being a musician, used the metaphor of this. These are like etudes, right? These are like practice. They may not always be the most beautiful thing, but they do contain a lesson. And so this is a really nice filtered portal, and you can look at the basic stuff here, and then you click on the row to go there, and there's a nice explanation of what's going on there. And we're going to look at some of these. We're going to look at a bunch of these actually, but I wanted to show a few more things about the demo first. So as you can see, you can zero in on just what you're looking for if you know what you're looking for, or you can go jumping around. So what happens? Let's go back to getting started, right? And I'll just click on the first example. When I click on the row, what it's going to do is it's going to take us here. And in just a moment, I'll talk about these 4 panels. and what we do here, because this is where you're going to spend a lot of time if you're in this demo. But this would also be a good time to talk about the custom function. And JSON query is not going to look like any custom function you've ever seen before once you get past the header. So it has some header information. Obviously, it can't be as extensive as what was on that reference screen we saw a moment ago, but there's a lot of good information in here and very generous amount of information. So this is all, yeah, just basic information about how it works. And then eventually we get past the header and we get down to the code. And there's the code for JSON query. And this is what's known as minification. And does anyone know why the code had to be minified? I'll give you a hint.
Because it's bigger than 32,000.
30,000. It's 30,000 is a hard limit, not 30,001, 30,000. And yes, it's not about obfuscating anything, and we're going to prove that in just a second. But so there's a 30,000 character limit, and Steve had a lot more than 30,000 characters in the unminified version. So this is so minification was the key here, and I was curious how large the unminified code was. So I asked him, and he responded. For the benefit of anyone who's not looking at the screen, that's nearly a 10 times reduction, 9 times. Yeah.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, that is some
very cool.
Deep minification.
Wait, so how did you minify?
Steve wrote a minifier. And one of the things that's kind of interesting here is if we go digging around in the demo here, right? We've got the source code. Okay. This is unminified source code. And it's been through 78 revisions as documented in here. Okay. And so you can actually see what's really going on, right? Looking at the unminified code. Okay. So the whole version history's here, or a good chunk of the version history anyway. I think there's some prehistory that may not be here. So yeah, so let's go back to the examples and here. So what you'll see is I'm at a pretty low resolution because I want to make sure everybody can see the screen clearly. So normally there would be a little bit more of the lower set of panels visible, but we'll be okay with this. So what you have here is over here on the input side, I'm going to start here, is you have some sample JSON. Okay? It's not always the same, and in some cases you can change the amount by doing this. So for instance, you could bump it up. But depending on which examples you're looking at, your choices here may not be just different numbers of records, but it may be some different source data completely. So at any rate, here we have this source data, and I purposely set it at 1,000 records because I think this is pretty impressive. And so when I was doing my sample queries, I was mostly returning a specific bit of information, but you can also bring back the entire record that matches. So for this first example here, we're saying, hey, look at the ID. Somewhere in here, there's an ID key. Right, there it is. Look at the ID and just bring me back the whole object that's ID 247. So now it's going to look through 1,000 records, and I'm going to click Run Example, and don't blink or you'll miss it. Yeah, so less than what's that? 1/100th of a second. And it returned one record, and that's the record it brought back. And if we look, sure enough, there's 247. So so you can see then you've got your input, your source, you've got the query, and notice he's telling you here what each argument represents. Okay, and then down here a human-friendly explanation, and over here's the result. And if you decide to play around, like say I just want to bring back a different record, right? It's possible you could really screw things up and then even what you had here would no longer match what was here. Well, you don't have to go re-download it again because this restore button will restore the entire example. So see, I've clicked that right there. It's back at 247. Now, let's say you've gone through and changed 10 or 20 records in here. You can't remember. You're not sure which ones you need to reset. That's fine too, because if you go into scripts, you can reset all the examples at one shot here. So you're really free to experiment to your heart's content and have fun. Now, another thing is,
Kevin,
yes.
Vince has a question.
Yes.
What would happen if you have the ID inside, the ID represented more than once inside an object that is within another object or something like that?
It will bring
you
them
have
all
to
back.
then-
Well, you're going to, let's bear in mind, right? We are
Yeah.
targeting an ID value that's inside the object, right? We haven't specified any path to it, so it's sitting right out here at this level. But you're saying if
Right.
ID, so let's find out, right? So if I were to put this as 247, now we know we've got that, right? It's perfectly fine to duplicate it, right? It's not hurting anything. So now when I click run example, 2 records were returned. This array now has, this is why it always puts things, or almost always puts things in an array, right? There was the first, see the first one came back. That's the end of the first
Yeah.
one and the beginning of the second. So that's what would happen. Did I answer?
Cool.
Was that your question?
Yes.
Vince? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. So now I want to get back. I'm like, okay, I will point out, right? This is FileMaker and we can just navigate from example to example this way. That's perfectly fine. But we can also go back, and if I hit the home button here, we'll go back to the main screen here, and maybe I just want to look around at different things, you know, and go somewhere else, right? So what's really neat is there's this incredible wealth of information here. And Steve, I'd like to specifically invite you to step in if you see a specific example you'd like me to show that, and I'm glossing over it. I am going to show a lot of them, but I'm also sort of jumping around. So
Kevin, you're doing so fantastic. I couldn't do half the job that you're doing. So I'm just going to sit back and watch.
I learned from the best. All right. So here we go. Here's one we haven't used yet, right? I want to bring back people whose first names begins with CH, right? And, you know, I just realized this is sort of circling around to this a bit late, but I think it's so cool that I can query JSON using sort of SQL-like conventions, right? I mean, this would be like works, by the way, here, right? If this was like, that would be how we do it with SQL. But just the idea, I don't have to parse it into separate records or anything. I don't have to write some convoluted while loop. I can just come over here and ask the question. So I want to bring back records, and I think actually I'm just going to bring back their names, right? I will bring them all back. Okay, so I'm going to click example. So if it begins with a CH, right? And here we go, right? Took a whopping, 0.037 seconds. And if we scroll down, sure enough, Charmaine, right? And then there's a Christina, you get the idea, right? And let's go to the next example. We do it with ends with too. I like this one, right? This is people whose email address ends with .net. Right? So we're going to do that. They come back. And I think in this case, I'll just hack this a little bit and put email here. And then as you might imagine, it's going to return an array of just the emails. Right? And sure enough, there they are. Right? Yeah. Oh, so right. So I can either jump through this laterally, pressing control down and jumping from this is useful. Okay. Does the street contain chai? Right, and I click that. There it comes. If I want to bring back address.street and run it again, right? There's a chai. There's a chai. Right now, what if you said, but Kevin, we only want it if it's a capital CH, if the first letter is capital, contains case sensitive. So we jump over here. Boom, there they are. Chive Terrace. Obviously, we got back. Yeah, we only brought back 3 this time. And I want to point out, right? I could also, instead of bringing back just the address street, I could just bring back the whole address, right? Like that. So it's whatever path I'm targeting, right? In the source JSON. See? So I'm going to jump back out here and we did that. Oh, in is cool. In is very cool, right? And for those of you who have been using JSONQuery for a while, we had in before, but it had a maximum of 20 arguments. Steve, is there an upper limit now?
No, I don't think there is. I think we removed it. I mean, the more you ask of it, the slower things are going to get, of course. But no, there's no upper limit that's official.
Okay, so we'd like to, and again, I think I'll just bring back the addresses that match because it makes it easier to see them, right? So we're saying, look inside address city and see if the value is in one of these 3 arguments, right? Okay, so we got back 8 records, and it's yes, they're all just like we asked for. So that there's a tremendous amount of power there. Let's see. Yeah, some of this. We use the etudes metaphor, and it's all spelled out for you right here. This one's kind of interesting. On the range operators, right? We're saying we want auto years, and you can do a standard range, or if you use the little x, it will exclude the endpoint. So what we're effectively here is showing us things that are 2004, 2005, 2006, or 2007, but exclude the 8, right? Because we've done that. Okay, so just say that, run the example, and sure enough, I think we can see that, right? If I didn't have that endpoint, which is probably the previous example, right? There's the same example without that endpoint, then we're going to get back more, right? And we got to have some 2008s in there. I haven't seen one yet, but I'm sure they're there. There's one. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. And then let's here.
I have another question.
Yes.
So is the performance linear? Like if you have 1,000 records and it only takes you 1/10 of a second, if you have 10,000 records, is it going to take a second?
It's based on how much is coming back and also depending on which. There are fast operators and there are slower operators.
Right.
So,
but if everything else is equal and the number of records you're querying is the same, I'm not saying, but that's variable. Then is it linear off the amount of data?
Steve, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, it's like Kevin said. So there are 2 kinds of operators, Eric. Optimized operators, which have like a little bit of a trickiness under the hood that allows them to be fast, and non-optimized. When it's non-optimized, then you're going to see performance degradation based on the input size, because non-optimized basically means it's running like you would code a while loop and it's going to have to iterate through everything. So totally more records of input are going to cost you more on the output. In contrast, the optimized operators don't have that same paradigm. And so they have a shortcut that they take. And so it's really okay to like double or triple or quadruple your input size, and you'll still get good performance, provided you're not having to return a whole bunch of records, because basically where you get the overhead in the optimized operators is in it having to collect the results. So if it has to collect a lot of results, it's going to take more time. If you're looking for a needle in a haystack, it's going to be surprisingly quick. Something that you wouldn't expect for a large input size, because the overhead's really just about the collection aspect for the optimized operators.
The good news is the ones that we tend to use frequently are the really fast ones. So yeah. So I've highlighted on screen the fast operators, and this might be a good time to mention that as of version 2, we'll be able to use an equals sign instead of spelling out the word equals. Think of all those keystrokes you'll save. Here are ones that are, and Steve is so modest, but even the things that are supposedly not optimized are still plenty quick on any remotely reasonable size of input JSON, in my experience. So I'll just editorialize a little on that.
I have another question.
Yes,
Kevin. So this question for Steve in this Yeah, I don't even know what to call it, like an orchestral work. It's just like a life, endeavor, right? It's so vast and deep. Like, what have you learned about FileMaker functions that you would stay away from? Like, like obviously, like all this is coded in FileMaker functions, in the custom function, but have you borrowed anything from other languages? Or are you seeing things in FileMaker where you'd say, oh, I would never use, I don't know, some string operator or function in FileMaker because that's inefficient? Like, I'm just curious what you've learned in the process.
I would say I learned the things that I learned are probably just a small handful, like maybe 3 things, 4 things, 5 things at the very most. I'm guessing 3 things or so. And those are all things that people are talking about in forums for years, really. So I learned those things from the forum and then I baked them into here. Things that I learned with this project are more about well, like a good example is teaming up with somebody like Kevin. You get that sort of feedback so you don't go off on some sort of limb that you think is amazing and has no real world use for anybody else. So like I learned a whole lot more about like how to develop something and how to try to keep it relevant to the target audience because you want to enhance, their development life. I learned way more about that than I did about optimizing things. The optimizing stuff was stuff that you just pick up if you're somebody who, reads the forums every day.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would it take, or at what point would you determine it would be better to build this as a plugin versus native?
It really depends on how much it's like if it enhances a lot of people's lives and the main thing is like people really wish that it could scale to immense sizes, which in my opinion it doesn't scale to immense sizes, then I would be interested in seeing it work with JavaScript basically, either through a plugin or something else. And I've thought about writing a version like that, but I just don't have it in me to do it.
Jeremy,
Yeah, no, I mean it's like it's definitely been in my heart at one point to like, if this thing caught on, take the same API and just write a JavaScript implementation so that you could basically cover all the territory. It's not going to happen, at least from me. But I'm straying from your question, like I guess because I don't really know a good answer to your question. At what point should it become a plugin? It kind of depends on, who's using it and who feels the need for something like that. And if there were a lot of demand for that, well, then I would say, yeah, it's, that should be looked at.
I guess to follow up on that, I guess was it Steven that asked that?
Yes.
But yeah, if it were a plugin, I'm just curious, like how much faster would it be? Like if it were a plugin, and how much more data could it handle, and if that would be kind of like a way to see like a lot more.
Yeah. Without trying to put it down, I would say it opens up a whole other dimension of what you could do with it in terms of volume. The analogy that I think of is it'll make sense to anybody who lives in a big urban area with paved streets and basically day-long traffic congestion. If you have that familiarity, then you own a bicycle and you own a truck. And sometimes you want to take that truck. If I wanted to get myself from my house to Kevin's house, which is what, a couple 100 miles away or something, Kevin?
Yeah, it's about 300.
All right. So I'm not going to take a bicycle because I'll never make it there, especially if I had to, carry some camping gear or something like that. But on the other hand, if I need to get around town, I'm definitely going to use the bicycle because I don't have to deal with a lot of the headaches that I would have to deal with, with a vehicle. So I kind of see, I see the domain for this type of problem to fall into those 2 categories, and where you set that cutoff, where you say, hey, this is where I stop using the bicycle and I need a truck. I think that's kind of on a case by case basis, meaning on a developer by developer basis, how you make that decision.
Okay. Well, we could we could.
Tony has a
Hey,
question.
can I? I'm going to ask a question. Hopefully, not display too much ignorance. Maybe a little bit. So first off, amazing code. I was looking at it. Custom functions are cool and very useful in calculation engine. I think that's the only way you can call a custom function is from within a calculation, and that's very, very useful. So here's my ignorant question. Let's say 50,000. I looked at the code. I saw the set recursion level was 50,000, which I guess could be modified. So maybe that's my simple question. What is that? Does that mean that if you have a JSON with 60,000 elements in the array, that you would want to, tweak your custom function to dial it beyond 50,000?
No, probably not. You wouldn't have a direct correlation, a limitation for that because that's a recursion limit, which is
It's not a one-to-one.
Not necessarily. No. I mean, there will be. I haven't hit that limit yet. And
Okay,
I've
cool.
done it with really large amounts. It's kind of. I tried to make it obvious in the code so people could tinker with it if they wanted to. If they opened it up and found that 50,000 string, they'd be able to do it. Yeah.
Oh, Steve, I have a good answer, and I'm going to just fire a couple. I saw the version check for 18 and up. Which I assume is because you're probably somewhere in there using the while, or they're using something that requires 18.
Indeed.
Okay. And if and I heard you say you haven't hit the recursion level, it's in the function of 50,000. If you do, does it error back with like, hey, you've exceeded the recursion level? I'm just curious. Does it say, hey, whoa, slow down?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer. I don't remember what sort of behavior I put in there. I think it's basically the guts are surrounded by the standard set recursion, and so whatever
Question
you get
mark
from FileMaker,
comes back or something?
it's not going to be very helpful. Yeah, you'll probably get the question mark.
All right. Well, if that was a good question, now let me mix it in with my stupid question. Show my ignorance. Is it possible? I've heard rumors, never done it myself, that it's possible to use the web viewer to what do you call it? To run JSON. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I like a custom function because if you're having the web view run JSON, you've got, and I'm assuming that JSON has lots of functions for dealing with, map reduce or whatever things I've heard about. But the fact that this is a custom function that can run within a calculation engine gives it kind of a unique positioning.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm gonna what's the word? The only thing I'm gonna sort of nitpick with you is you're probably want to just change the state. You're talking about JavaScript, the language, as opposed to.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. No, that's a valid. That's more than a nit. That's more than a pick. That's just a factual statement. Yeah, what you said. Okay, all right. That's it for me for now. But I might be back later. Thanks.
I have a question, if I can indulge.
Go for it.
Kevin, if you click in one of your examples, just for giggles, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing 250 records. Okay, let's pretend each of these records is, that's the payload size. But now looking at FileMaker's records, that's 250. Say each one of these records is every day of the week. Now I want to ask this question across the payload because this is a snapshot of every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to do that across, say, a 6 months range, but the payload's in,
No,
35,
so you're
40.
going to pull those into a variable, or, you're going to combine them, right? Use JSON make array, or, right, I'm going to assume you have, let's say you have one JSON object per record. Then whatever the size is, right, you'll just there's such a variety of tricks, and I know that you know them, right? But right, we could do it with a custom function, right? We could do it with a simple substitution. Just build an array of those objects, put it in memory now, and that's what you're going to query.
Okay, so it's a procedural thing. It's a batch operation, or
you could do it all with a let, right? I mean, or a while, or what, you know what I mean? Like it can be part of the statement. You don't have to write a script. You don't have to, go out and change your schema, assuming you've already got a JSON object for each record.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I just want to talk some more about this. So one of the neat things that's in here, sometimes you'll find these really neat corners where like you thought, wow, he even thought of this. Steve, I have to feel like you eat your own dog food and that you really use this yourself, because I keep finding neat things in here. Oh, feel free to respond, of course. Okay. So anyway, okay. So here we've got is a good example, right? We've got. I'm gonna look at the nest example just to check. Hang on a sec. Yes, I just wanted to make sure. All right. Well, so if we go over here and we're gonna say minimum, what's the minimum of the auto year, right? Bring back the minimum auto year that we have here, right? So it went and looked at down in this data, right? And it said, bring me back the earliest year that we have, right? So what if that year, let's say, was surrounded in quote? What if our data was mixed and some of our years were strings and some were numbers, right? And so I suppose what I really ought to do, well, I'll just say it, right, is that if it's a string, this will still find it. Okay, it will still aggregate it. It's not going to say, oh, too bad for you. That was a string. I'm going to ignore it. But maybe you want it to. Maybe you're like, no. I only want to look at legitimate numbers and I want to ignore, right? Steve, am I right? Is that what that's doing?
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah. So now if we use the min hashtag function, right, it's going to ignore any string values and strictly look at numbers. And there you'll find a number if you're as you move through the examples, you'll find many examples of that level of nuance. So I won't belabor the point, but let's come over here. Let's look at this list, right? And this is a case where remember I said that begins with and like are the same, so I could just as easily type begins with here. It's just the same, right? And we're saying this, we want to return a list, but we also want to customize what the list separator is, right? So in this case, they're now separated with commas, right? Rather than, I guess that would be a 13 if we wanted to go back and do it the other way, right? Yeah. And you can even put I forget what the technical term is, like a Unicode blob in here with several characters, with zeros separating each one. Oh, look at this. This is fun. Let's give this a shot. What could this be? Ready? Aim, fire. Aw. Very cute. Okay. But did you notice some of these names are showing up more than once? And you might say, I want unique values on this, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if I could just do it with JSONQuery and then wouldn't have that ugly dangling return at the end? List distinct. Someone started to ask a question. Do you want to ask your question? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm gonna actually just working with dates, array wildcards. Let's just see what we've got going on in here. What's the result? Yeah, there's some things where like you can reach down deep inside and then pull stuff back from deep inside of it. There's so much cool stuff in here. I don't want to get hung up on too much minutia right now on that. But again, Steve, please jump in if you see something you really think you'd like me to show.
No, Kevin, you're doing great. I love it.
Output transfer. Okay, well, this is very near and dear to my heart. The output transformations. All right. So is this all output? Okay. Yeah. So JSONQuery, I'm going to just jump back to a previous example here. Normally, the 6th argument is what we call the result path, right? So this is where we're saying, okay, I went out and I asked a question. Here's what I want you to return to me. And if you leave it empty, it returns the whole object or whatever that entity is. But there's there is a possibility to do something different with that sixth argument. Okay. And that is use a map. Okay. And if those of you who are using the map in the current version, I want to point out the syntax has been simplified. So in the new version, it's less onerous because you don't have to escape things. There's fewer quotes, etc. So we have this sort of human-friendly syntax. So we can just put maps here like this now very easily. And the idea here with a map is I've gone out and maybe I just said match all, which is bring me everything. But now I'm going to restructure what we see here. And when I go back to my file and show some of my examples, I have a number of examples of where I do that, but there's also a number of those examples here, right? So what we're saying here is I don't want everything here. I just want to bring back some of it. I'm going to click run the example. You can see this is a pretty profound transformation of what was above, right? And you don't have to use the same names. So in other words, you're going to grab data maybe from different levels of your JSON and then just bring it all out and put it here at the main level. Yeah. And often in my own work, I'll find that I first do something like this and pizza slice, pizza cutter time. That'll be my starting point. And then I'll run my JSON query against this, right? So I'll do two passes. First to get it into a more easily queried, for me, something that's more, anyway, I'm not expressing that very well, but I think you get the idea. So let's look at a couple more examples of this, right? So let's just see what happens. Once again, we said match all. And oh, I see. This is just gone vertical because these are so long. It's not structurally different from this. In fact, it's simpler, right? Because there's four entries here, and here there's only two. But it's just since they were long-winded, the formatting made them vertical. Okay. Object. Yeah. So there's just a huge amount of transformation that you can do in here. Let's take this one, see what we got here. Okay, so, this is interesting. Steve, I was expecting to see this as a template when we have the default. Okay. Default value goes here. I use templates for default values, but there's a template operator that you can put in here. But this works as well. I have never done this. This can be useful if you're handing JSON to someone else, to another developer, and saying populate these values, right, or something like that. So let's see what else we have here.
I was just going to say this mapping. When I first saw it, what came to mind is your database has field names and structure that you like, but you hand it off to somebody else, an API call, for example. And first name becomes name first, or something like that. So this is the beauty of this mapping, is you can transform what is your structure of your data into something that they can use really easily, that would take a ton of work otherwise. And so this mapping is just like primo.
Yeah, and
wonderful.
On a related note, Beverly, if part of your role as a FileMaker developer is to essentially be a traffic cop, and you pull the stuff down from the website and then you transform it and you push it over to the accounting, let's say.
Correct.
This is a godsend right here. This is what I was talking about a moment ago with the template.
Yeah.
Anything in the template will be in every record. So you can add new stuff. In this case, it's just Boolean, but let's do it, right? So you can see what we've done, right, is now we're grabbing some data from here, and now we're adding. And then I guess that's the difference between template versus the default thing, is when it's down in the map, it needs to be coming from the source JSON. But when it's in the template, you can add new keys with the caveat that they're always going to have a single value, right? So
Yeah.
Here we are just, that's been very useful for me for some of the work I've done, because I'm able to make a template, not to confuse the terms. I'm able to make basically some cookie cutter JSON that's partially populated, hand it off to another developer and say, give this back to me with these entries populated. Works with ChatGPT also. Sometimes. Okay. I'm going to skip that because I don't want to talk about it. This is the old way of doing the map, right? Is that right, Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, my mouse was not near
No,
that.
that's okay. This
mute
is
button.
this is why I'm so happy to have that the new version is coming. Okay, so there's a lot more we could say about that, but I'm going to jump into the version 2, and I'm going to apologize in advance because there's so much cool stuff I didn't even cover here yet. But what's coming in version 2 is phenomenal. Okay, I could definitely put more energy into maps, but I do want to show some of this stuff. So let's see if we can find a good one. Ah, right. Okay. So one of the things we've got, let's actually go back. Let's see. Yeah. Matching with wildcard object keys, right? So here we've got this options key, right? And then notice, this is I just learned this term recently, so I'm throwing it around a lot. This is what's known as an associative array, where effectively we have something that's kind of like a real array, but instead it's just an object, and then it's got a bunch of uniquely named keys that are actually data, right? They're on the key side, but they're data. And at first that seems kind of weird, but there are a lot of good uses for that with JSON, like building translation tables or just saying, well, here's a string, go query and find it, right? And so for the first time now, we're going to have the power to use JSONQuery and reach down into these things. And that's what's happening here, right? So this is new, that we can do this, right? So what we're saying is return me entries where the option, where the charge inside the option, regardless of which of these it is, right? We didn't specify these. We can use a wildcard here and bring those back. So by the way, that's how you clear the example here. I hadn't pointed that out before, but I cleared the result, excuse me. I cleared the result with that. Now I'm going to run it. Right. And it brought back the entire object because the result path was empty, right? But it's bringing back the objects. Now notice what it's bringing back, right, is if any of the charges are greater than 5, it's going to bring back the whole thing, right? And then, oh, this is interesting. And no note, I can't cheat and read your notes, Steve. It's not there yet, but it will be before it's released.
Sorry about.
Now I feel like I'm being tested, right? What we're saying is start from here and give me everything to the right of that, I think.
You're going to get the matching children when that's the way
Right.
I think about it.
So I said I wasn't going to talk about the how too much, just the what. But I do want to point out, if you've got a wildcard, you can then use the // and it's basically saying, give me everything to the right of that wildcard. Or actually, yeah, something like that. So, but you can see, right, here they are, right? We've got the matching children, right? Whereas before we got the objects, including the things that didn't match. Let's see, and here's a similar thing with a transformation. Base path is really cool. Base path is saying, hey, when I ask this question, I want you to start evaluating from a certain point, right? And in this case, I want you to evaluate inside from wherever charge is, right? Do your evaluation here, if I understand correctly. I think that's what base path is saying. Look in here, and this is what I'm talking about, right? So it's almost like searching inside a portal rather than searching inside the parent record, right? It's like changing the context of where you're going to do this transformation in this case. Let's jump back out. Look at a couple more. I mean, there's so much more I could say here. And
Wait,
the new, we should talk about the new. Go ahead, Steve.
No, it's Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah, is version 2 going to be backward compatible with the old version? Like, will all your old queries still work?
Largely,
99.9% of them. You go,
yeah.
Steve.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I would say largely so. And I'm going to call out the places where it's different. And I'm suspecting that a lot of those places where it's different are things that weren't being used in the first place. But I will call them out, and it's a very minimal amount of things that are going to be how shall I say, just won't be supported in version 2. Very minimal.
Because I was just thinking, like you get all excited about using this, And you start building a system on top of it, and then you want to get version 2.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't want to do that to people. And that's why this goes back to version 18. I also didn't want to do the thing where I'm like, hey, here's this new version and you can only use it with FM21 or something like that. So the upcoming version still goes back to version 18 compatible, and all the good stuff, and just some of the more esoteric stuff is not supported, but all the good stuff is.
I will say this as someone who's used both. I've only had one time, and I've been using this really on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, for 2.5 years. I've only had one time that bit me, and it was easily worked around. So, and then I was only upset with myself because I already knew better. I already knew that one little thing wasn't working anymore, but there was one place where I hadn't thought about it, and it caught me, and that was fine. A question mark came back and easily resolved. So these really are very obscure edge case things that are coming out. So now this is a brand new operator. And Steve, would you talk a little bit about this, what we're doing here?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So just to back up a minute to like a few minutes ago, we were looking at an operator that was /.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of // is it grabs you the matching child elements. Kevin, you said it perfectly, by the way, when you said it's like searching in a portal. Say you're on an invoice layout in FileMaker, and you've got invoice line items in a portal, and you're searching invoice line items for something, maybe a line item that cost $100. In FileMaker, you wind up getting back, assuming you're still in the invoice context, you wind up getting invoices that have line items that happen to have a value equal to 100. All well and good. If what you really wanted to do was just to hone in on the line items, in FileMaker, of course, you set your context to that line item context first, and you do your search there. In JSONQuery, to do something analogous, you don't really have any layouts that you switch between, but the point of that // operator is effectively gets you the same sort of effect as changing your layout to the child context first. So that's
this operator, the tilde /
I haven't got to the time being
Okay,
long,
sorry, go ahead.
hell of long-winded. I'm sorry. So yeah, the point of the / operator is basically like, hey, give me my children that match. Don't, let's forget about the parent context for a minute. So Kevin, would you mind just changing that to a // and then we can run that and we can see like what the children look like?
Yep. So
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's matching children. Those are like portal rows to us. But supposing you wanted a different effect, which is you want those portal rows, but you still want to see them in the context of their parent record, but you just don't want to see the other children that didn't match. That's what the // is all about. It's basically saying, give me what you would have seen with the //, but put it in the context of the bigger picture. So you're looking at the matching records, but when you look at what's sort of analogous to the portal, which is the child array, you will only be seeing child records that met the match criteria.
Yep. So in
Like
this
a left outer join, is that what you're saying?
Oh, holy cow. I don't think I can keep up with that. Beverly, I'm so sorry. That might be true. I don't have the SQL
So parents that don't have children are also included. Is that
no?
okay?
No. Yeah, that won't be
So
the
it's
case.
not that. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
No, all good.
All right. So there's a lot more we could do there, but the idea is what it comes down to for me in my own work is sometimes I want to say, like your example that you gave 5 minutes ago, Steve, you're on an invoice and you say, I'm going to search the line items for any widget that cost $100 or more. But of course, when those invoices come back, there could easily be other line items on each invoice where the amount was less than 100 or more, or maybe we were searching for exactly 100. So other things came back. But there are other times we might want to go into the line items and search for just things that match 100, right? And so sometimes what we want to get back is just the things that match what we're asking for and not see the extraneous things. And that's one of the things that we're getting with this new operator is the possibility to do that. Do you think that example, I don't want to, you know what, we're going to run out of time. So I'll tell you what, I think this is really cool here. This I showed a little bit when I was showing from my sandbox demo, that there are all these places, there are all these different questions we can ask, right? All these, I guess we call these operators. So, you know, is it not null? You know, does empty mean null, right? Is there, so different ways, you know, does the key even exist, right? And we saw earlier that we could use the omit operator and find things where the key doesn't exist, right? Or the path doesn't exist, right? So in this case, here I'm going to say customer name, right? Find me ones that don't have a customer name. Does that sound right? No.
Yeah,
What
you know, let's see where the path is not equal to the volume.
Or the
that looks like that example actually needs to be touched up a little bit at first glance. So it might be not helping you to use that one.
Okay, customer name. Oh, find me where the path exists, but the value type is null.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, and if you've ever thought about searching for nulls in FileMaker, I mean, in your own JSON work, it's kind of weird, huh? Just say JSON get element, and what comes back for null is the same as what comes back if it's quote, quote, right? When you do a JSON get element on there. But so we've got some tools here to deal with that. Let's just path operators. Oh, this is pretty cool. Right? Actually, let's see, did we have one previous one? Yeah, these two kind of go together really nicely, right? So first, whenever you see this, it just says put everything in the map, right? And so I'm going to do that. In other words, if the source is dot and the output is dot, you're basically saying start with giving me everything. But notice where we set the base path was here, right? So when I say map source dot output, it's basically giving me every entry, right, that starting from allergy concerns, right? So it's returning these. And we said match all, so it's for every record, right? We got back all of. Now, what if we wanted to do this, but we didn't want the code, right? Get off of there. Okay. We didn't want the code, right? It's like, yeah, this is basically what we want, but what would be even cooler would be to have it without the code, right? This is a new feature. We now can delete keys, right? So when we do this, it's the same as before, but now the code has been removed. So, and these things can be used together. Like we could start with that and then we could add something else. So it's like you can delete one thing, you can put something else in. Yeah. Steve, is there anything else you want me to show from here? Because I'd like to go back to my file, but I'm also happy to show anything else you'd like me to show.
No, I think the only thing that I want to mention is that the new set of operators, we're kind of seeing some of them on the screen right there, up to 240 and wherever that section starts. The path exists, is empty. All of those were inspired by working with you and Beverly. You both were like querying JSON where it mattered to you folks to know, like I had only had a mindset of like, well, of course the key is going to be there. Of course the value is going to be there. But both of you were working with situations where the node may or may not be there in the JSON. And when I saw that and realized that there wasn't really a way to handle it elegantly, you know, that's what sort of planted the seed for like, well, what if we had operators that allow you to see if something's there? And if it's there, is it empty or is it populated? I think you might run into these sorts of things if you have configuration data stored in JSON where there may or may not be a config value defined. And, you know, you want to reach in and, as you mentioned, Kevin, if you just get back an empty value from something like JSON get element, you don't necessarily know, does that mean that it's defined as empty or it just was never defined in the first place, things like that. And it was the two of you
The
that
key might not even be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the two of you that hipped me to that possibility. And that's all I wanted to add about that.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, oh, go ahead, Bev.
I'm going to say, and that's exactly it, is that even the null does have a specific value in JSON. And so if you have something with null and you use the FileMaker functions, it'll be blank. It'll be nothing. But if you have an empty, which is the double quote, you get back to double quote.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not my experience.
Yeah. Well,
You and I can compare notes later on.
yeah. But definitely we run into some really edge cases. And so this is great that these will take care of all of that. Thanks.
And I want to point out, I mentioned earlier, this is under construction and Steve very graciously shared it, right? But so there will be a description making it clear which of these you'd want to look at. And yeah, I think I'd like to show a few more examples of like real world stuff that I'm doing. So
Evan, just a quick question for Steve.
Yes.
Are some of the new features that have come out in the recent release things that you're implementing, or maybe because it's a query tool, it's not necessarily applicable? But I'm just wondering if you have considered those.
Yeah, I saw
Support for
that question.
games. Sorry, you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that question early on, Vincent, and meant to get back to you. There's the only effect of like the new functions and the new versions that are coming out on this particular project is it just means I have one more place where I need to run my test suite. But I'm not taking advantage of them because I want to maintain version 18 compatibility for now. And I just need to test to make sure that there wasn't any behavior change that's going to catch me out.
That said, you do have support for dots and key names, and that was once
that's true.
allowing that in 19.3. Yeah. So in other words, it's friendly to that. If you've got 19.3 or later and you've got a dot in your key name, JSONQuery will handle it correctly.
Cool. Thanks, Steve.
All right. So yeah, I'm just going to bang through these pretty quickly. This was one where this was supposed to be an associative array, but it came back as an array of objects. So there was like this extra level in here I didn't want. And so what happens here is, because of the way the map's set up, I'm going to deflate this and I'm going to turn it into one object that has 3 keys and get rid of this extra layer here. Okay, so, oh no, I said that wrong. Okay, I'm sorry, another example does that. I wasn't thinking straight. Translate to array format. I should look at my own note. Okay, so here you can see, right? I just basically said, find me anything where currency exists. And we do need that because we need a wildcard here so we can reach down into it with the base path. And then, so effectively what I'm doing is I'm saying, build this out, and then that's all we want to see, right? So that's what we've got here. The next one, translate to, this is what I thought the previous one was. Translate to the simpler reduced object format, AKA associative array. So now I want an object where this is the key, and this is the key, and this is the key, but these will still be the values. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, okay. So in this case, I want to even simplify it. Assuming it's all, let's just say, in some cases, all I deal with is USD. Other times I have to do a currency conversion. So a lot of times I don't actually care about the currency because I know it's all USD. So I want to produce this from this. Right. And so once again, we got a transformation path. And so again, we've set the base path. And then we've, say, start from everything. But add this to it. Is that right? Or, well, at any rate, it works. Okay, sorry, I'm in a hurry, so I'm not going to think it through. In this case, we want to get things that just match a certain range, right? I want to be between $40 and $60, or whatever the currency is. It looks like in that currency, I want to go between 40 and 60, right? Find the options with the price within a specified range, right? So it brought back, and I transformed it, right? So I started with that, got back just what I needed. In this case, I'm turning it around and I'm saying, before I say, give me everything in this range, we can now put the omit. And I want to point out, this works on almost every, you can use it all over the place. Give me everything but the things that are in the range of 40 and 60. So we got some small ones, right? And we've got some big ones, but we don't have anything between 40 and 60. So this is just a different transformation. So asking a similar question, but returning the results in a different format. Okay. And let's see to compare that. How is that different? Oh, one was an associative array. The other was an actual array, and we just have 3 values in the array. Whoops, including space on an option name. Should have run that other test first. Okay. Oh yeah. Find me things where the phone value is empty. Right, so just bring back the objects that match. I have a missing phone. Okay, this one's fun. So I've got different currencies in here, and I would like a unique list of what those currencies are, right? And distinct, right? Distinct, yeah, deduplicated list of them. That one takes a little while, right? Right? So find me things that have currency, and then, so when we produce a list here, we have the option of making it underscore distinct. If I didn't do that, right, as you can probably imagine, right, it would be that. Yeah. Okay. I do not have a reset example on mine, but I do have backups. Okay, what are we doing here? Oh, okay. Go in here, find people that have a quantity of 10 or greater on dinner, and bring me back the address of that entry. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, that's the 2 there. And you can take my word for the rest of them, right? And again, why do I care about the path? Because I'm going to then come back and do something with that information, right? So that's why I care. Transfer the input and add a standard set of template entries. Yes, yes. The name stays the same, but the address becomes location. So here's what I mean by that, right? The name is going to stay the same. I'm going to change the word address to location. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to then hand this to someone else and say, I need you to, wherever you see null, to fill in the values and give this back to me. That's what I'm doing with that. Okay. Except it would be more complicated than this, but we'll skip that part. Okay. I guess got a few more here. This input is, oh, so now the person sent it back to me, but it turned out a lot of what they sent me back was not actually usable. So pretend I just got this back, right? They've returned it to me, but lo and behold, they actually didn't give me what I wanted. So what I'm saying here is it's mostly useless, what you've given me, but a few of them I can use. So find me things, and I just chose kind of at random. If they gave me anything, then they also gave me the country. So just go look and find me things where country is not empty. And it pulled back the few that match, right? That are actually useful from all this data here. Oh, this was a fun one. The goal was to find countries that border Russia, but we can't do a wildcard search on the borders array. So my idea was convert the borders array. Oh, this is back to the country data from restcountries.com. And the idea was make a space delimited list, and then I could do a contains query against that list. So what do I mean by that? Convert that into a space delimited list rather than a separate array, than a standard array, right? And what these are three-digit country codes, 3-character country codes is what those are. So this is step 1, was just transform it. So I'm going to click refresh, and what we're going to get back is exactly the same, except borders is no longer an array, but instead is just a string with space delimitation, right? You can see it right there. So now that we've got that, this is all going to be reused here. And we're just calling it slice in honor of the pizza cutter, right? And now I can simply say, go look in that space delimited list and see if it contains our US, because that's what I'm looking for, is countries that border Russia. And while you're at it, just give me a list of the names of those countries that border Russia. So I come back here, and it's thinking a little, and there, it just brought them back to me. So those are the countries that border Russia, at least according to this JSON here. I've got a couple more. Distinctify a list, return a list that may, and in this case does contain duplicates, and I wanted it to be sorted. So I'm going to click refresh. So this, if you've ever used something called JSON ND or ND JSON, I forget which, it's new line delimited JSON, right? Each row is valid JSON, but the hard return becomes the delimiter. Or another way you could say is it's just a list of objects. Okay, so I got back this this list of those language objects, right? Correspond, whoops, did not do that. There we go. Yeah, corresponding to that. All right. And if I use list distinct, right, then I'm going to get back a deduplicated list, because this one had lots of duplicates in it. And if I want to distinctify the array, we're almost done here. Get a distinct list, but we'd like a distinct array, right? So the thing is, we don't have an array distinction in JSONQuery. We have a list distinction. So the trick is, right, we could though, right, we could use JSON make array, right? And there's only one problem, right? It's this, oh, sorry, at the moment the results are unsorted, but I'd really like to, they're distinct, but they're unsorted. I really want them to be sorted, right? So I'm going to use sort values. And there's just one minor problem. And the minor problem is, does anyone know what the minor problem is? Does anyone know what JSON make array is? Right? JSON make array makes a list out of it, makes an array out of a list, right? And I even told it that that what it was making a list of was objects. The problem is, why is this guy down here? What's this? Steve knows. I think a lot of you know, and you're just being shy. Okay, since someone's talking, I'll answer my own question. Sort
Trailing
value.
returns.
Trailing hard return. Sorry, who was that?
That was Tony. I just got back from. But yeah, those pesky
Right.
anything with an S, the value functions that have an S have a trailing
Right.
return.
Okay, trivia. Which values, all values functions, when they return a positive result, include a dangling return, with one exception. What's the exception? And it's a
JSON get values.
list, JSON list values. Thank goodness they didn't put that in there, right? So JSON list values does not have the helpful, but that's why that's there, right? Because we told it object, right? We told it object, so it said, okay, well, you said you want an object. There's an empty line there. I guess I'll give you an object. So that's why that's there, right? So what if we use JSON raw? And I'll point out JSON raw can also be quote, quote, right? Just like quote, quote here would be the same as the Pilcrow, right? It could be either, right? JSON raw looks at the first character of each, right? So what do we get? So that says, okay, fine. I'll just give you an empty entry. Like I looked at it. It always just looks at the first character, right? Said, okay, there was first character was what? Empty. I'll just give you quote, quote, right? So we're still not quite where we'd like to be with that. We could use clean list. I think I got this in the right place this time. And so clean list is a custom function that just gobbles up empty rows, okay? And removes gaps if you have empty rows inside your list. It clears them out and it takes off the leading and trailing ones. So it's just, I'm sure Brian Dunning's website is probably full of these. I wrote this one myself. It's very simple, right? Okay, so we could use the clean list and then boom, it's gone, right? But another thing we could do is here's just a little plug for one of my custom functions. If you search FileMaker hacks for JSON custom functions, I have a whole bunch of them. And the nice thing about this is it figures it out for you. So you don't have to tell it anything. It just gets it right. And of course here, every item is going to be an object anyway. So it's kind of superfluous, but that's another way to do it. This of course existed. And if you're in an earlier version of FileMaker, it works, right? I think this is good back to 19.5. Yeah, I have 2 examples left. Okay. Oh, this one was kind of fun, right? We want to flatten an array, right? So sometimes when this is much simpler than what we were just looking at, but sometimes you get stuff back like this and you're like, God, that's so long-winded. I wish I could have it nicely formatted. I don't want, right? Well, here, let's just show it. I don't want this. And this is the last thing I'm showing, and we'll call it. All right. Whoops, I forgot the other argument. Okay. We don't want that. That's messy, right? So what we'd like is formatting, but we'd like it to not be so space consuming, right? So what I did was I got tired of this, and a lot of times I was like needing to review things, and I really wanted it all in one row, each object on its own row. So another shameless custom function plug, JSON format 2D. And I guess I'll just say, is there questions or general discussion we should have? Because I've now shown everything. No, you know what? I'm so sorry. I just thought of 2 more examples, and they're right at the beginning. Okay, script, startup. This is so basic, but has anyone played with? Well, first off, let's talk about the problem. I've got this input list over here, and this is obviously a made up challenge, but let's say I want to just return the countries that end with a vowel, right? So if I want to do that, and I'll just click refresh and show that I'm doing that, right? Now I've returned countries, an awful lot of them end with A, but some end with other vowels, right? And easily done with a while. And but the issue is, you basically, prior to the latest version of FileMaker, you needed to sort of iterate the list, and you also needed to keep track of the next available array address, because you weren't putting every item in. So there wasn't a one-to-one correspondence between where the list counter was going as you iterated through the list versus what your array index was, right? The array index was incrementing more slowly than the list counter, right? So we had to keep track of both, and we had to increment both. Whoops, I got those backwards, right? We had to increment both, right? And so notice here, right? It's saying, okay, before I increment it, right, you use the current value. So it starts at 0, and then it works its way up as we start adding elements to this array. So if we, now that we have the new plus operator, it makes it easier to build the arrays. We don't have to keep track of where the next available target address is. So here we just keep track of the counter only. So it's basically the same exact calc, but now I don't have to have an index argument. And in place of that, I just put that. And so less work. And there it is.
Clay explained it. It automatically goes to the end of that array that's already exists. Yep. And it appends it to the very end for you.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, there are multiple ways to skin that cat, and there's the corresponding one that looks almost exactly the same, but it's a colon instead. And that says target the last value. Find the last. Whoops. Right. Wrong. Okay. Yeah, so between those two, you can really do like push pop stuff, like you've got like a little stack of stuff and you're adding and subtracting stuff off the end. A lot of power there. Anyway, but that was a simple example. I've had things where I iterated through, I needed to build an array, and the array was already partially built, and suddenly I had 100 new records in a table, and each of those records contained something that needed to be pushed onto the end of that array that already existed. So before that would have, required more maintenance. You didn't necessarily, if I go back to the previous example, you didn't necessarily have to do it this way. You could instead have just counted, using JSON list values and then a value count, or JSON list keys and a value count. You could just figure it out every time, but that was more processor intensive than just incrementing your index. So, but yeah, so now it's just easier. But the real world use case I did the other day was I had a bunch of records and I already had an existing array. So I needed to roll through these records and for each record, add it on to the end of the array. And it was just less work with the new plus operator. So yeah, I think I'm done.
Wow, Kevin, that's I'm sad I missed your presentation in Berlin, but I'm glad I caught it here.
Oh well, you got a better one because Steve was able to illuminate things.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen this format that Steve presents in terms of like these 4 quadrants. Here's the explanation, here's the data, here's the example, and that format is just so great for learning and experimenting. And so really appreciate all the amount of time and effort that Steve you put into this, and really a great presentation. Kevin, thank you so much.
Kevin, you were awesome. Absolutely awesome, Kevin.
Yeah.
You know what? It's such a pleasure to be playing even a small part in this, and it's so much about also it's so beneficial for me. I mean, I work with JSON a completely different way thanks to this custom function, completely differently than I would otherwise.
And that was one of the questions in the chat. Basically, why would they need this? And kind of answer was, when you work with a lot of JSON, it just saves you so much time and work and effort, and frantically saying, now how am I going to do this? Well, it's here. It's been handed to you in a silver platter. So
you know what was funny was Steve, I remember having a conversation with you. Am I still sharing my screen? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. This is from a conversation we had 2.5 years ago, right? And then I said to you, right? So we started this messy JSON, and we were we were using JSONQuery to get through the mess. And then I said, this is a great example because so often we do encounter messy JSON out in the real world. And you said, I've been fortunate with respect to not encountering messy JSON, right? But my world is messy JSON.
I think that's actually, I was trying to figure out like what I would say if people said like, where would you use, like, where would this function really help you out? And I think it's maybe its biggest strength is like when somebody has painted you into a corner with some JSON and you're just like, you know what, I'm painted into a corner. And then it sort of allows you to sort of still get through everything and harvest out what you need or transform it back. I think that might be my answer to that.
Absolutely.
Yep. No, it's been simply remarkable for me. Oh, you know what? There was one screenshot I forgot to, just a screenshot. I'm really glad that we're still talking because I really want to share this with you guys. And what this is not about explaining anything, but I just want you to see a place where I use this. And hang on one sec, because I think I lost my window. Is it there? Yeah. Okay. Hybrid map. So without explaining anything, this is one of the most complex calcs I've probably ever written. And this was back, as you can see, back in the day before we had the new map syntax. Here, I'll zoom it up. Okay. And again, what's going on here is not terribly important, right? But I think we can agree this is a complex calculation, and it has multiple whiles in it, among other things. I think there's 3 separate while calls within it. But let me go to the next image for you, where I've highlighted the places where I used JSONQuery to help me out. Okay. So effectively, every place where you see a highlight is where JSONQuery saved my bacon. And I don't even want to, I really don't want to even contemplate how much more complicated this would have been without JSONQuery. But as you can see, I made good use of it. So, yeah, and that's real world. So,
Oh,
yeah, okay, I'm done.
Can I jump in for a question that might be useful? I dropped it in the chat. So I ran a little Apple script, which I'll just drop in the chat. 29,872 characters long in the minified. Now, Kevin said 30,000 hard coded. I'm looking at the English.
Yep.
And so the funny question is, does this compile in other languages? Because not all of the code is minified, like the function names. I was just wondering, German is sort of famous for being long.
That's a fantastic question, Tony. I saw that in there, and I have no clue. Yeah, I don't know like whether you could.
I mean, I don't have the German version at hand, but then
I would think that if it's already been done, then FileMaker converts it into some binary whatever process that it doesn't matter. But if the Germans were then try to edit it,
interesting.
they might. Yeah, that's.
I think that's a solid hypothesis, Vince, because I've taken a custom function that compiles in 19 because it's got like error location. And once the custom function is built or compiled, to use your words, I can put that in a 18 system and it'll work. But I think if I opened it, then it would explode. And so you're probably right. Anyway, I just thought of that. Remove comments. All right. Interesting. Oh, by the way, awesome function, by the way, in case nobody else said that.
It's miraculous.
You know, when you open the hood, it's like one of those things where it's like, you'd think, like, I've seen custom functions designed by other people where it's like, oh, you have this custom function and then you have this other one that depends on it. You have this other one that depends on that, it helps out or whatever. But you open up the hood and you only see one. It's like, wow.
Yep.
Vince, what Vince just said brings up another kind of edge question, which is, if you're building a custom function, and I looked at the code and, very minified for the reasons explained, then there's some native functions in there. And just to the character limit question, I wonder what the performance is of building, wrappers to kind of minify the get element calls and stuff like that. If that made any sense. Like if you have a function called get element and you have a custom function called GE. But I would leave it as you have it. Anyway, it's just awesome. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
It's interesting that there's code to generate this code.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to drop and let you guys carry on.
Hey, Kevin, I can't thank you enough.
Kevin. Yeah.
Nobody could have done what you did. And
Steve, no one can thank you enough.
Well, that's great. But I mean, what you just did now is like a presentation that I couldn't have given unless I had, hours and hours to prepare, and I just don't have them. And you did a beautiful, beautiful job.
Yeah.
Right.
What you do, Kevin, is you say, look, I was handed this, or I created this, or I think this will work, and you tried it out, and it works beautifully in what he's got. So it's like, the two of you together just make really, really cool music.
Well, and I do want to say, countless times I've approached Steve for help. So some of what my examples were not, I had some non-AI, non-artificial intelligence assistance from Steve. Genuine GI.
Yeah.
This will go. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say this is going to go down in the history as the 5-star DIGFM meeting that you missed.
Yeah. Well, we still have the viewers on the recording coming up. Usually quadruple of what we have here usually.
Yeah.
If I can share my screen for a second, I'd like to show something which is kind of hysterical, which is the directory of, I'm not on my home machine, which is where all of this
We're
stuff
still
happens.
recording. Do you want us to turn
Yes.
it off?
That it makes whatever works for you guys. I'm not showing
No,
anybody.
no, it's okay. But if it's
keep
something
recording.
you don't want recorded, let us know.
No,
Yeah.
I don't feel that way.
Oh,
Are we
okay.
seeing
Okay.
we're seeing like a movie here? So this is a movie clip of my home machine. I'm gonna play it. Basically, this is my code, all of the code for JSONQuery. This is the one that's been released. This is the one that was going to be upcoming, but then all of the next versions that I've been working on are in earlier versions. Actually, that's what we're going to look at. So this is just a movie of me opening up the folder so I can show you how many versions we've gone through at this point. Here we go. Takes about 30 seconds.
It's not running, Steve. We're just
Oh, it's
seeing
not running?
the Finder.
Oh.
We're just looking at the Finder window.
Oh, that's
We're not
a
looking
drag.
at the movie.
You're not looking at the movie.
You probably
No.
didn't share.
Oh,
your
maybe I
entire
showed the wrong
desktop.
screen.
Yeah.
Are you looking at something that just says like JQ stuff? Is that what
Yep.
you're seeing?
Yep, that's what I was.
That's
my bad. Okay, then I'm watching a movie.
No, stop. Stop sharing.
It wasn't that interesting.
No,
But let's
Steve,
see.
stop sharing and then reshare.
Yeah, no, that's what I want to do. I just can't figure out where the stop sharing is. Somebody got some.
No, but wait a minute. Like it's. Do you have two screens?
Oh, there. I do have two screens. Let me. Now I see the stop sharing.
Because you're.
That's the problem. Okay, let's try this again. This time for sure. It's just like what's his name?
Winkle.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Okay, I think I got. How's that looking? Are you looking at something different this time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's.
Oh yeah, that's a movie. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so let's watch the
Yeah.
movie. 30 seconds long. You're just basically seeing the archives of code that we've been through with this thing, all the iterations.
Wow. That's intense.
So organized.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about Steve. He's most incredible.
What happened between 140 and it's a little
There
bit
you
of a
go.
jump.
Yeah, sometimes the
Wow.
numbers jumps. I definitely do take liberties. I figure if you can do that with commercial software.
Commercial software bumps up the versions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That's
it's
so
kinda-
cool.
Your sample file is kind of like a mini GitHub, even.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what you call it, but anyhow, I wanted to show that so that people would see like there's a methodical quality behind, trying to make the revs to it.
Took more than a weekend.
It did, as a matter of fact.
Something we didn't touch on, but I think we should call it out, Steve, is that you write test cases for this stuff. So by the time Steve releases it, it is very well tested.
Right.
I always, when you write the test cases, that's when you find the bugs. So you always feel like, my God, I'm glad I wrote that test case. And so it's both reassuring, and at the same time, it's also challenges your confidence, because you're like, I'm glad I wrote that and found that. But if I found that, maybe I didn't find everything, but that's what's taking a real long time at this point is finishing the test cases.
Steve, when you write the test cases, do you do that with like a little FileMaker utility file using the evaluate, or kind of similar to what Kevin was using to demonstrate?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in fact the format is it's actually included in the demo file, and the format is very similar.
You just throw any kind of random, any kind of crazy input.
Yeah, I mean, actually the hardest part is coming up with the input that you need. You spend more time fabricating JSON that's going to have an array nested inside of an object, nested inside of another object, and nested inside of an array, and like all these things that you want to test. So like the big effort is just to come up with some sample JSON that demonstrates all this. And then you just have to write a record for every test that you want to do. And then I guess the next difficult thing is you have to solve all of them, and you can't use JSONQuery because that won't work. So you have to manually, calculate the answer, what it should be. And that's it.
Interesting.
Okay,
Awesome.
folks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, thank
Thanks,
you a
Steve.
million. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
See you around.
See you.
Oh, hang on 1 second. Okay, hold on. I want to share my screen. Where's
Beverly, you have a cool avatar too. This is the first time I've seen it.
Thanks.
Okay, so ChatGPT, in the world of ChatGPT, I fed it your code, and I said, "Can you please provide Can you please provide the FileMaker? No, wait a minute. I have a FileMaker custom function. Can you please tell me what it does?" So yeah, as ChatGPT. So
You're going to break
I mean,
ChatGPT. It'll be down all day.
no. But I mean, this is incredible. I mean, the thing that fascinates me about ChatGPT is like it doesn't blink, it doesn't flinch. It's like, yeah, I'll read it right away. And as soon as you send it, it's like a second later, it writes out like stuff that it sees. It just
Wait, but did you give it the minimized code?
I gave it the minimized code.
Oh, and you gave it all the comments too.
Right.
Yeah, well, okay. I should strip out. Hold on. Okay, let's strip out the comments. Hold on. Let's see. Let's start a new window here. Okay, let's go back in here. Let's copy just the custom function here, and then down here. Right?
It spit the comments back at you.
Wait a minute. This part here, Steve, from here. From here, right?
Basically, I think I can't exactly see where your cursor is, but like,
okay, it's like
grab from case on out, from case on down.
Okay.
Or alternatively, just delete the other thing and select all.
Okay, so I can get rid of all the comments, right? No comments.
Yeah.
Every meeting devolves into AI.
Copy this, right? And then go to AI and say, I have.
I'm going to predict it's not going to know the answer.
Wait a minute.
What if it does? Wouldn't that be
Better or not?
Oh, it might, because it might find the code and then see the comment somewhere else.
Oh, if it remembers what you just asked it.
If it finds
No,
the
it
code,
doesn't store it when it runs it. So, of course, it's going to say, "Sure, I'd be happy to help you understand your FileMaker custom function. Here you go." And here comes the answer. Wow. It's going to run through everything.
not bad.
Huh.
I don't know, Steve.
That's
What do you
beautiful.
think?
I'm watching it right here. I can't watch it quickly enough.
Pretty.
But
Nice job on
think
the
about what just but think about what just happened. Like if I were to give this to a human, and a human would have to grok that, there is no way in hell. Like the minified version. It's
yeah. I agree.
Awesome.
I agree. That's amazing.
That is
based on the process JSON. Where did it pick up that there was JSON? Oh, there it is. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I see.
wow. I don't know. I mean, you know your code so well, Steve. I don't know if any of this.
Now ask it if Monkey Bread can do this.
Eric, you're the greatest kind of nut there is.
Yeah, for sure.
What you did see, actually, there is. Okay, Monkey Bread does have a function called JSONQuery, by the way. It doesn't do this, but it exists.
Oh my gosh! Wow, amazing. Anyway, I thought that would be fun to end on this note. So thanks.
Take care, all.
Thanks,
Wow.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks again, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait,
Thank you, everyone.
I guess he never did talk about FileMaker 24. 2024 did.
Oh, still recorded?
Yeah.
You can turn off the recording.
Yeah, okay. Listen, somebody's going to say something wonderful.